Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, so if you're building, managing, or maybe just upgrading a website in 2026, you're probably staring down a pretty massive challenge right now. Trying to evaluate the modern CMS landscape for dynamic websites. I mean, the tech has evolved at absolute breakneck speed, right? And picking the wrong content management system today, yeah, that just means a whole lot of debugging and headaches tomorrow. So let's just dive right into it.
All right, here is the foundational question you've got to ask yourself. Just how complex is your data? Honestly, everything we're going to talk about today hinges on your answer to this one question. It's not about which framework has the most hype on developer forums right now. It's about what your specific data actually demands. This single factor is going to guide your entire decision-making process. Are you just serving up some static text, or are we talking about generating highly personalized, data-heavy pages in real time?
To figure that out, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at what dynamic content actually is. Then, we'll map out the 2026 CMS landscape. After that, we'll weigh WordPress against headless options, talk about matching your CMS to your hosting, and finally, wrap up with the infrastructure advantage. Let's get going.
Section 1. What is dynamic content? Defining the heavy lifting of modern web development.
Okay, to really anchor this concept, I want you to think about this number, 50,000. A simple business brochure site has absolutely nothing in common with a massive product catalog serving 50,000 SKUs. I mean, a site with that many products, pushing real-time inventory counts, user-specific pricing, and personalized recommendations, that site is doing some serious heavy lifting. It's eating up server resources with literally every single click a user makes.
So, let's ground the technical jargon for a second. A dynamic content CMS is basically a system that generates page output at request time, pulling from a database or an API, rather than just serving up pre-rendered static files. Essentially, the CMS isn't just storing your words on a server, it's actively assembling the page on the fly. And here is the crucial point, that on-the-fly assembly consumes CPU cycles, RAM, and database queries every single time a page loads. That resource drain is exactly why picking the right CMS is so incredibly critical.
Section 2, the 2026 CMS landscape, the shift from monoliths to modern frameworks. Now, the current market breakdown is actually super fascinating. If we look at the W3 text data, WordPress still powers over 43% of the web. It is absolutely the reigning heavyweight champion. But, 5 years ago, the landscape was completely different. Monolithic platforms dominated everything. Today, it's a highly competitive arena, with other platforms and headless architectures taking up a massive 57% of the pie. Developers aren't just asking whether to use WordPress anymore, they're really asking when they should reach for something different.
But hey, do not count the champion out just yet. WordPress 6x has matured incredibly well. It brings in things like the Interactivity API for client-side dynamic interactions, black bindings to connect external data sources natively, and improved query loops. What does all that mean? Basically, WordPress can handle dynamic content super efficiently right out of the box now without your team immediately needing to rely on third-party JavaScript frameworks. It remains the default for a very, very good reason.
All right, let's meet the challengers. The headless model decouples content management from front-end delivery, which just means your CMS stores the data and serves it up via an API to whatever front end you decide to build. Let's look at the top 3 headless contenders right now. First up, Astro. This is your go-to for content-heavy sites that want blazing speed with near-zero JavaScript by default. Second is Next.js, which is the absolute best choice for large-scale, complex web apps. And third, Payload CMS. This one is gaining massive ground in 2026 for teams who want a TypeScript-native, developer-first stack with full self-hosted control, to avoid those hefty SaaS bills.
Moving on to Section 3, WordPress versus headless, making the right choice for your team.
So how do you choose? Well, you should definitely stick with WordPress when you have non-technical visual editors who really need that user-friendly interface. It's also the clear winner if you're heavily relying on a vast plugin ecosystem for things like SEO or forms, or, of course, if you're running WooCommerce. Contrast that pragmatic usability with going headless. You want to go headless when you need multi-channel delivery. Like, say you're pushing content to a web app, a mobile app, and an in-store kiosk all at the exact same time. Headless is also your best bet if you need sub-100 millisecond API responses at a global scale, or if your front-end team just prefers working in a React-based environment.
When we map these platforms against their best use cases and their hosting needs, the clear winners really start to emerge. As you can see, WordPress 6.x is the ideal all-arounder for blogs and WooCommerce, running great on optimized shared or managed hosting. Then you have Astro, the champion for low JS content speed, requiring a static host or a node virtual private server. Next.js is strictly for app-scale deployments, demanding a node VPS or dedicated server. And Payload CMS is your best self-hosted headless option, which also requires a node-based VPS. The big takeaway here: while WordPress wins on accessibility, Headless wins on performance. But, and this is a big but, Headless demands significantly more from your underlying hosting stack.
Which brings us to Section 4, matching CMS to hosting. The plot twist? Software is only as good as the hardware.
Okay, this right here drives home our core thesis for today's explainer. Your CMS choice and your hosting plan are the exact same decision. It is a total illusion to think you can pick some cutting-edge CMS and just throw it on the cheapest bargain bin server you can find. It doesn't work like that. The underlying infrastructure is what actually solves those dreaded latency and crash issues. If you get the pairing wrong, you are literally going to be up debugging timeouts at 2 a.m.
Let's take a look at the specific optimizations you actually need to run WordPress dynamic queries smoothly. A generic LAMP stack? Yeah, that just wastes resources. You really need light speed combined with LC cache for dynamic page caching. You need PHP 8.2 or higher because WordPress 6 is fully PHP 8 native now. You need MariaDB 10.6 or higher to handle complex query performance without choking. You gotta have OP cache enabled to reduce PHP compilation overhead. And this is important. A free dedicated IP helps improve email deliverability and provides much cleaner AI citation trust signals for your content-heavy sites.
Now let's flip over and see how this looks for the headless stack. Headless architectures have very distinct requirements that honestly catch a lot of teams completely off guard. Shared hosting? Completely non-viable here. Do not even try it. You need persistent Node.js processes for both your API layer and your front-end build pipeline. That makes a VPS hosting environment with an absolute minimum of 2 GB of RAM entirely mandatory from day one. I'm telling you, if you try to run Next.js on standard shared hosting, you are just setting your project up to fail. Oh, and a quick, very serious warning for all our e-commerce viewers out there. WooCommerce stores with over 500 products are intensely dynamic. Just think about it for a second. Inventory checks, pricing rules, user discounts, cart states, all of that has to run on literally every single request. This demands isolated CPU and RAM. Shared resources are just going to create checkout timeouts. And a timeout at checkout, that directly costs you conversions and real money. Dedicated resources become completely non-negotiable here.
All right, final stretch. Section 5, the infrastructure advantage. Why 20+ years of hosting experience actually matters.
So long-term infrastructure providers like AHosting have evolved right alongside all these massive CMS changes. I mean, they've been hosting content-driven sites since 2002. That is literally before WordPress even hit version 1.0. And that kind of history, it translates into infrastructure natively tuned for dynamic workloads. It means PHP FPM pools and lightspeed worker tuning that actively prevent resource waste. It means free dedicated IPs on every plan, which really boosts those vital AI citation signals. It means purpose-built Node.js VPS environments ready right out of the gate for your Next.js or Astro headless builds. And it means isolated WooCommerce-grade resources that keep those dynamic product pages lighting fast.
We have covered a lot of ground today, right? From the incredible maturity of WordPress all the way to the raw speed of modern headless frameworks. But as we wrap up, I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought to help you deeply evaluate your current tech stack. Ask yourself right now, is your host enabling your 2026 CMS or is it limiting it? Because at the end of the day, a world-class dynamic website needs an infrastructure that can actually keep up with it. Think about that as you plan out your next major digital project. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer and keep learning.